Hi everyone, Jones here. Today I'm going to show you the match between Kasparov and Kramnik was held in Paris, France, Intel Grand Prix Blitz tournament in 1994. Kasparov has a white in pieces and Kramnik has a black pieces here. So Kasparov start with a pawn to d4 and Kramnik counter pawn to d5. Kasparov decided pawn to c4. Kramnik decided to move his pawn to c6, and standard opening move developed by the knight trying to control the center square, supporting the pawn to d4. So in here, guarding this, controlling this square towards the center, and Kramnik decided to move the knight to f6. Knight to f6 by Kramnik, and Kasparov decided to move his knight to c3. Knight to c3, trying to gain more control in the center, towards the center, and a little bit giving a pressure here in a d4 pawn. So Kramnik decided to take the pawn to c4, and Kasparov decided to move the pawn to a4, and this is a Slav defense, a Czech variation classical system in the main line, and Kramnik decided to move his bishop to f5. He's trying to control the center and trying to develop his knight in the better position and better square. So Kasparov decided to move his pawn to e3, connecting the pawn here and preparing to launch the bishop here and ready to capture the pawn here in the c4. The idea of this a4 is to prevent the pawn here, because moving the pawn here in a3 is allowing the bishop to capture the pawn here in c4. So let's continue. e6, trying to develop the pawn towards the center and allowing the bishop to move and develop. And bishop takes c4 and bishop b4. Bishop b4 is to develop the bishop and pinning the knight here. So Kasparov decided to put his king to a safe place, and Kramnik decided to put his king in a safe place, castling, and queen to e2, trying to move the queen. This is a standard opening. This is part of the standard opening move and part of the standard development. Moving the queen here is the main idea here, just to give some support in the bishop here. So if black moves here, there's a lot of attacker here in b5, and bishop to g6, moving the bishop here in this, supporting the king. Knight to e5. The idea of knight to e5 is try not to capture, to exchange, or to capture the bishop, because this bishop is really strong, and Garry Kasparov want to remove this bishop in the game. Okay, so knight b to d7, trying to develop the bishop, trying to develop the knight and pre the rook here in a8. So knight takes g6, so that's why Kasparov want to capture the bishop to exchange to his knight. H to g6, rook coming to d1, trying to rook coming to d1 is just to prepare this one and put the rook in the semi-open pile. Queen out to a5. Queen out to a5. The idea of this one is helping the bishop. When the bishop captured the knight, pawn takes knight and queen takes knight. So winning by pawn. So Kasparov pushed the pawn to h3. So Kasparov opening the pawn in c3 after bishop takes the knight, pawn takes bishop, and queen takes pawn. So what if, the question here, after the pawn to h3, what if Kramnik decided to capture the knight here in c3? Let's see. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes knight, queen take knight. As you can see here in this current position, black is up with the pawn here. Then what is the best move here? Up Kasparov, bishop to d2, attacking the queen here. As you can see in the red arrow, queen move to c2. Then after that one, bishop to d3, attacking the queen again, queen to b3, rook d to b1, attacking the queen, and queen moves to d5. After moving the queens to d5, bishop c4, still attacking the queen, queen to d6, and rook takes pawn here. As you can see here, this position is best for white here, because right now there's a broken pawn here. There's an isolated pawn here in a7, and there's an isolated pawn here in c6, and this one, it gives a weak square for the black. So that's why after h3, that's why Kramnik didn't capture the pawn, didn't capture the knight here in c3. So another good move by Kramnik is moving the rook to d8. This one is preparing later, because maybe the knight will move here to b6, and now this rook is now in a semi-open pile. Remember, rook is better in an open pile. So let's continue. And Kasparov decided to move the pawn to bishop to d2. The idea of this one is to develop the bishop and to support the knight here in c2. And Kramnik decided to move to pawn to e5. What is the Kramnik bringing the pawn to e5? To break the center pawn, just to break this one center. So that's the main idea. And Kasparov moves his bishop to e1. Bishop dropping back to e1 looks like waiting move for Kasparov. Okay, and just to moving the bishop here is still good, because still he's supporting his knight in c3, and now there's a clearance here for the rook. Now the rook can support here, supporting the d4 pawn. So that's the main idea. Now Kramnik decided to take pawn e4, e5 pawn takes to d4 pawn. Kramnik captured the d4 pawn and Kasparov recapturing with the rook. So Kasparov used his rook to capture the pawn instead of the pawn here. Then knight to b6. Knight to b6. This is a strong move by Kramnik. Why? Because attacking the strong bishop. As you can see here in this position, in this current game, bishop is really strong here, while moving the knight to b6, as you can see, attacking the bishop and attacking the rook here in d4. So let's see what Kasparov responds for knight to b6. Kasparov put his bishop to b3, because this bishop is really strong, because right now this bishop is pinning the pawn here. Look at this one. There's a giving a pressure here in f7. Then so moving the bishop, so like it's supporting the pawn to a4 and supporting, yeah, he can support the pawn here to a4. Then Kramnik decided to rook to d4. Rook to d4, e to d4. After the capture, white has isolated pawn, which is very fine for black. As you can see here now, as you can see, white has an isolated pawn, and this one, it gives a problem in the black, and this one is become a weak pieces and become a weak square. So let's see, let's continue. And after pawn takes d4, Kramnik decide to move his rook to e1. The main idea of this one is I want to develop the rook to e8, developing the rook to e8 while attacking the queen to e2. That's the main idea. And Kasparov decided to move his queen to d3. What is the main idea here? You can see there's a red arrow here. The main idea here is to capture the pawn there, because when Kasparov, or forget if Kramnik missed this one, this is a simple tactics. When we miss that one, the f7 pawn can't capture the queen because of the pin coming from the bishop. So now Kramnik decided to move the knight b to d5. Another beautiful move by Kramnik is blocking the white bishop and putting the knight in the central square. As you can see, there's no pin here. It's blocking, which is a very good move by Kramnik. Then let's continue. Bishop to d2. Now Kasparov need to develop his bishop in a much better square, in much better position. It's better here because he's attacking this diagonal while supporting this knight here in c3. As you can see, this rook is ready to go to e1, because right now this rook is very strong, because this rook is now in the open pile. Then let's continue. Queen to b6. Kramnik moved to queen to b6 and followed by a5. This is a remember, they're playing a blitz game, but as you can see, this is a best move by Kasparov. This is an excellent move by the Kasparov, initiating a sequence of move which win his pawn. What if, the question is, what if Kramnik, the question is, what is the tactical point of a5? Is that this pawn is immune from capture? But let's see. What if bishop takes pawn? Wow, as you can see, and black is up with the pawn, but there's a tactical here. Knight takes what? Knight takes knight. Knight takes knight, and bishop takes bishop. As you can see, this bishop is supported by the rook here, and now in this position, Kasparov or white is up with the material, so that's why Kramnik didn't capture the pawn, and Kramnik decided to move his queen to c7. So after moving the queen to c7, Kasparov replied is knight takes knight in d5. Knight takes knight from knight f6 to d5. Bishop takes bishop. Okay, then after this one, knight takes bishop. As you can see, after knight takes bishop here in a b4, the knight is attacking the queen, but Kasparov captured the pawn here in g6. That's a very good move by Kasparov. So now knight back to d5. Why? Because he wants to block again the pin here to f7. So what is the reply of Kasparov here? He moved his queen to f5. Then after moving the queen to f5, what is the main idea here? Moving the queen to f5. As you can see, bishop. What if bishop takes? Bishop can takes the knight, pawn takes bishop, and queen takes pawn, and Kasparov up with the pawn here. So what is the next move here for the black? The black moves is g6, attacking the bishop, and hey, don't go here, don't go in my territory. So what is the next move here for Kasparov is he moved his queen to f3. Moving the queen to f3, still attacking or threatening the knight here in a d5. So now Kramnik moved his queen to d6. The main idea of moving the queen to d6 is to support the pawn, to support the knight here to d5. So what is Kasparov moves? a6. What is the main idea of moving the pawn in a6? What if Kramnik captured the pawn here? The rook takes can't. But yeah, what if after what if Kramnik captured the pawn here in a6? Then I think the next one is moving the pawn here to g3, and as you can see here, this is a double pawn, and this is a double pawn and isolated pawn. So even though he's winning with a pawn, but his pawn structure is bad, so that's why Kramnik didn't capture the pawn to a6. So that's why Kramnik decided to move his pawn to b6, which is very good move. So now Kasparov move his pawn to g3. Then after that one, king to g7, rook to c1. Okay, what is the main idea of moving the rook to c1? They're giving a pressure here to c4, c6 pawn. So that's the main idea there. So now Kramnik response is rook to e7. Then after this one, king to g2. As you can see here, when the king start moving, because the main idea or main principle in endgame is you need to, meaning to say we're going to endgame here now, they need to activate it. They call activating the king and putting the king towards the center, because remember, in endgame, king becomes very powerful. So after king to g2, knight to b4, it's threatening the pawn to a6 here. As you can see that one, that's the main idea there. So the next move is queen to c3. Queen to c3 is supporting, okay, remember this one, supporting the pawn here and attacking the knight here. But the main idea is because he can give a discover. What if Kramnik missed this one? For example, Kramnik moves knight takes a6, and Kasparov can move his pawn to d6, giving a discover check here. So after that one is look like a winning position by Kasparov, because the pawn here is in the so that's why after knight to b4, queen to c3, and now that's why Kramnik decided to move his king to g8, king back to g8 because of push pawn to d5. That's the main idea. And rook to e1, as you can see here again, the main idea here is he need to exchange his rook, because this rook is still powerful because he's still in the open pile. So rook takes rook, queen takes rook, and king to f8. What is the main idea here of king to f8? The main idea here is, for example, let's see, queen to f8. What if, okay, what if Kramnik captured the pawn here? Wow, there's a free pawn here in d4, but as you can see, Kasparov can move his queen to e8, giving a check to the king. Then Kasparov can capture the pawn here to f7, so like winning, and the king is in danger. So that's why after queen takes rook and king to f8, guarding this square. So I know that one. And after this one, queen to c3, moving back the queen to his original position is to support the pawn here. Maybe later on you can push this one. Let's see, knight to a6. Finally, Kramnik, now it's time to capture the pawn to a6. And now, as you can see, still in equal, as you can see here, is still in equal position, but there's a isolated pawn here in d4, which is a little bit, this one is advantaged by the black. Then what is the response here? Queen to c4, another brilliant move, attacking the knight here to a6 and giving or threatening checkmate here to f7. But black or Kramnik responded to queen to d5, forcing to exchange the queen and blocking the checkmate here in f7. So there's no other option. Queen takes queen, pawn takes queen. Both of them has a now has an isolated pawn, and bishop is ready to capture this pawn. So bishop takes, after c takes, or bishop takes d4 and knight to b4. Knight to b4 is attacking the bishop here in d5. After that one, Kasparov decided to move his bishop to c4, knight to c6, now threatening the pawn here in d4, knight to d5, pushing the pawn forward and attacking the knight. Knight to e5, again the knight is attacking or threatening the bishop here in c4, bishop b5. What is the main idea moving the bishop to b5? Preventing the knight to jump to d7 pawn here, and preventing the knight to jump here in d3. Very good move by Kasparov. And what is the response here for Kramnik? Is f6. After f6, f4, because he want to attack. Kasparov decided to attack the knight here in e5. Then knight moves to f7, king to f3. Now here, this is a legal endgame now. So again, the main principle in endgame is you need to activate your king towards the center. In endgame, the king is become a powerful, powerful attacker or powerful helper. Okay, that's why king to f3, then king to e7. As you can see, they're racing towards this. They're racing towards the center and supporting, especially with the white. He need to support his pawn here to d5. h4, preventing the push pawn here to g5. King to e3. Here we go, king to e3, going towards the center and going to support his pawn here to d5. Knight to d6, again blocking the pawn. He wants to block the pawn to push forward and attacking or threatening the bishop again here to b5. So Kasparov decided to move his bishop to e2, knight to e4. Again, look at this one. Knight is threatening or attacking the pawn here. This is undefended pieces, okay? So, and another weak square by the white, which is very good. Knight. That's why there's no, and Kasparov forced to move his pawn to g4, but there's no problem pushing that one because it's supported by the bishop. But the problem here, as you can see here, the f4 pawn and h4 pawn is now both isolated. Knight to f6, giving pressure to pawn here to g4. Pawn takes f5. Knight check first, and let's go back. Knight capture the pawn here to d5 and giving a check to the king, and king to e4. As you can see, all right, you capture my pawn to d5. Now I need to push my king towards the center. Knight to f6, king to e5, and knight to d7, giving a check to the king, and king to d5. Moving the king here, as you can, here we go. Moving the king here to d5 is the main idea. I think the main idea here of Kasparov is he's going, as you can see, he's going to move his king in this direction, because this two pawn is a weak one. So now Kramnik decided to pawn takes pawn, h5. Okay, here we go, h5. Now the king is going to the left side, and now there's a pawn here in the right side, which is, oops, which one the black priority to, because here in this right side, the pawn is going to promote, and in this side these two pawn need to protect. That's the thing, which is very good. Another tactical strategy by Kasparov. King to f6. Now Kramnik decided to move his king to f6, preferring to chase or to stop the pawn promotion here in h8. So now king to c6. Here we go, king to c6, attacking the king, and the main plan here is to capture the pawn here. Then Kramnik moved his knight to c5, which is very good, because as you can see, the king can't go there in b8, delaying the attack here in the queen side. So bishop to c4, then followed by knight to e4, bishop to d5, knight g3, knight to g3. The main idea, let's go back here first. The main idea here is, hey, what is the main idea of knight to d4? Because the main idea here is you want to capture the pawn here in h5. Then after moving the bishop to d5, now it's time to move the knight to g3, attacking the pawn here to h5. Then here we go. Kasparov said, I need to support the bishop there. And as you can see here, they're playing a blitz game here. Okay, both player is in the under pressure here. So knight to e4, going back to knight to e4. Okay, let's go. Also knight to e4, king to b7. After to knight to e4, here we go. Kasparov decided to move the king to b7, attacking the pawn here. Then after that one, knight to d6, giving check to the king. King takes pawn, knight to c4, attacking the pawn here to b2. So Kasparov decided to move his pawn to b4, king to g7. King to g7 is preparing to block the pawn here, moving here to h6. That's the main idea. Bishop to e2, attacking or threatening the knight here in c4. So knight to e3, and then king to b6. Here we go. After moving or capturing the pawn to b6, it look like white or Kasparov is winning here in this game. Knight to d5, which is another very good move with Kramnik, because after knight to d5 is forking the pawn and the king. So king to c5, knight takes pawn. Knight takes pawn. After knight takes pawn, the knight is attacking the bishop, which is very good move. Now here we go. After this move, Fritz and Houdini in Staffy suggested to move his bishop to c4. What if c4, knight h5? This is two consecutive big blunder, because bishop f, because the main move here is bishop f3 and king f2, double question mark. White must play something like bishop to c4, preventing black from playing the knight to d3 and knight takes b4 with a draw, because this is gonna be a draw game. Here we go, let's see. So because Kasparov decided to move his bishop to f3, but what if bishop move, what if let's follow the Houdini and Stackfish and Fritz suggestion to bishop to c4, knight takes h5, b5, knight f6, king to d6, preventing the knight to move to move near in this pawn. So knight e4 check, king to c6, knight to d2, king to d5, king to f6, b6, king to g5, b7, king f6, and here we go. That's winning by the white Kasparov, but that one it didn't happen because Kasparov after to knight, let's go back here, after knight to takes f4, Kasparov moved his bishop to f3. The main idea here, because this is very logical, the main idea here, okay, I need to move my bishop here to f3 is to support the pawn here. And take note, they're playing a blitz game here. Both of them is under pressure. So after to bishop to f3, they said king to king to f6 is another blunder by Kramnik, because in this position and Stockfish analyzation and Houdini and Fritz, white is winning here. But computer decided what if knight to d3, king to d5, knight takes pawn, king to c5, knight d3 check again, king to d4. After this move, this game is a draw. Why? Anytime one player is left with a pawn here or h pawn here, and a bishop is running on the square opposite, as you can see here, because here in h8 is a dark square and this bishop is a white square. That's an opposite color, and to the pawn squeening. This is squeening, isn't it? Because bishop and this pawn is in the same color right now, but this pawn is moving here, is need to move here to promote here in h8. That is a dark square, and this is a white square. It didn't help. That is short. Pawn queening square, watch out for this short of draw. This is gonna be a draw, but it didn't happen. Let's go back to bishop to f3, king to f6. They said better is knight to d3 is a draw, but Kramnik moved his king to f3. So let's continue. After moving the king to f6, b5, or here we go, knight to e6, giving check to the king, king to c4, knight to d8, b6, king to g5. Now king to g5 is now okay. Here we go. I'm going to near here in this pawn and protecting my pawn here to f5, king to d5, knight to b7, king to c6. Here we go, attacking the knight, and the knight become useless here. Knight to d8, king to d7, knight to f7, b7. Here we go, knight to e5. Which one is this move is very good by Kramnik, because attacking the king and attacking the bishop here in f3. This is a fork. King to d6, knight to f3, capturing the bishop. And here we go, pawn promotion, queen, king to h5. Here, this is a game between the knight and the pawn and the king versus queen and king. Let's see who's winning in this position, in this format. Queen to f8. The main idea is to attack the pawn here because this pawn is still unprotected. So king to g5, supporting the pawn here in f5. Queen to g7, check. King to f4, king to d5, king to e3, queen to g3. What is the main idea of queen to g3? Just pinning the knight. Okay, knight, don't move anywhere. Okay, that's the main idea. Queen to h3, h3 after f4. I miss f4, queen to h3, king to e2, queen queen to g4, still pinning the knight here because the king can move here. So king to e3, going back there is preventing the king moves here to e3. Queen to g6. Queen to g6. The main idea of queen to g6 is to bring the queen here to e4. That's the main idea there. Knight to h4, attacking the queen in g6, but here we go. There's a blunder by black. Is queen to e4, check, then king to f2. There's no other option here, so queen takes pawn. That is the after capturing the pawn, Kasparov has a clear win here. Let's continue. King to e2, queen takes knight. Here we go. King to d3, queen to g3, king to e2, king to e4, king to d2, king to d4, king to e2, queen to g2, check, king to d1, king to d3. A wonderful performance. This is a wonderful performance by Kasparov, who determined to get it right. So king to e1, after king to e1, queen to e2. All right, this is the game between I think this is a semi-final. This is a very beautiful game against Garry Kasparov and Vladimir Kramnik. Was played in 1994 in Paris, France, under the Intel Chess Grand Prix. All right. Once again, this is Joan, and thank you for watching this this game and this show you a match between Kasparov and Kramnik. All right, thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye for now.